Well, good morning, everybody. Well, all of our winter traveling is done. Well, mine is anyway. In fact, we just got back yesterday from Baton Rouge, where we were down there for 3 days at the Southern Cover Crop Conference, and I was invited down there to give 2 different presentations on 2 different days. So really glad to have the opportunity to go down there and network and talk to other people about one of my favorite subjects, cover crops. I met a few viewers down there, and I hope y'all were able to get a little bit out of what I presented anyway. But time to get back to the real world, time to get some work done, and it's time to get serious about the shop work we got to do this year. Don't have a whole lot of stuff to do, not like in years past, not really any major big projects, just mainly going through most of our equipment and repairing and maintaining it. So right now I'm headed on my way to H&R Agri-Power there in Trenton. Got some parts there waiting for me. Get started on our first big project of the winter. And y'all get to see what it is just right after the intro. All right, well, we don't have near as big a pile of stuff as we normally do when we're working on the planter. Yeah, we're not gonna have any upgrades to do on the planter this year, but it's been over about 6,000 acres, a little less since I bought it 3 years ago. So time for some replacement parts. And what we're going to be doing is going over the rear units on the planter, replacing disc openers and a few other parts. Now these rear units, because they're planting all the time, like I said, they've been over about 6,000 acres, whereas our front units have been over, well, probably about half that much. So most of the parts on the front units should still be in pretty good shape. We're still going to go through and check them, but I know from last year, the disc openers and stuff on the rear units starting to get pretty dang wore, getting real close to the tolerance, and time to put those units back like new this year. But before we get started on that, I've had a few viewers notice in previous videos something that I was hoping I wasn't going to have to explain. And that would be our shop door right there. Yeah, we had a mishap here back in December. I hired a local teenager, not going to name any names, but anyway, hired a local teenager to be down here detailing the interior of our tractors and stuff while I was outside pressure washing. And anyway, one day I had a tractor down here and he'd gotten done with the insides. It needed to be moved out. He came out there and asked me if I could move the tractor because he doesn't have any kind of experience driving tractors. Well, I was in all my wash gear, nasty and everything. Didn't want to strip it off and wasn't about to get in a clean cab with all of it on. So I explained to him how to move the tractor. And obviously, I didn't do a good enough job explaining how to move the tractor. So, completely my fault. I didn't give the training that I needed to, but anyway, instead of going forward, he went in reverse, didn't know how to stop the tractor suddenly, and hit the door. Wound up being a really, really expensive mistake on my part. I was thinking, probably on $3,000–4,000 would replace most of the panels of the door. Turned out it's going to be about $9,000 plus about a 6-week turnaround time on getting panels in here. So I could have just replaced the damaged panels for a little bit cheaper, but those springs up there on the top of the door were last installed in 1985 or so, so they got a lot of years on them. And last thing I want to do is replace the panels and then have a spring break. So anyway, they're going to replace the whole door. It cost me a little over $9,000. I did explore other options, maybe just putting a little bit bigger door on here, going out to this next frame rail here, getting me another probably 3 feet worth of clearance just to make it easier on getting the cotton picker and the drill in here. And then I also explored we going a different type of door, a rolling steel door, to be able to clear up some headroom up there in the top whenever the doors are open. But anyway, the vendor I'm dealing with gave me just a quick rough estimate of around $50,000 for a rolling steel door, so that was definitely out of the question. Saw how expensive that was. I didn't even bother researching how much more it costs to go wider door. Heck, as it was, it shocked me on how much just fixing this door was going to be. So expensive mistakes already eating into my bottom line. All right, Andy, let me show you what we're going to do over here. All right, like I said, what we're doing, we're replacing the disc openers right here. So to get those off, the gauge wheel has to come off. Pull this bolt out. Now it's got shims on either side here, so find a way to keep them set, because that is just how far in and out this gauge wheel is. And right now they're set pretty close to where they want to be, so we don't have to do a whole lot of trial and error putting it back together. Try and find a way to keep it keep them identified on which side they go on. Then once this comes off, we got the disc scraper here. Pull those two bolts off. We're going to be replacing the disc scrapers. And then we got one bolt in the center of this disc. Pop a plastic plug off, which we'll be reusing those. And one side is going to be regular threads and one side is going to be reverse threads. So I think this left side is going to be reverse threads because the disc spins that way. If it had regular threads, it could potentially loosen up going through the field. So we'll pull one off and measure it, make sure we're getting close to wore out, and then we'll start stripping it all down. Also, I'm gonna go through here, all the stuff we're not replacing, checking all the bearings, make sure they're all good and tight. These should all definitely be fine, especially back here. These were just put on last year. And all that feels good. We might have a couple going down through there, but we'll check them all out. Oh, they're tight. Let me change batteries. Let me try that. There, just needed fresh battery. Yep, oh, I forgot to tell you about all these shims. And they're gonna be different on each one. All right, let's go ahead and pull the bolt out. All right, as long as it's only got one thick one on the top, we're fine. We don't have to keep them separate. We just need to remember that all the thin ones go on the back side, and then we'll just screw it back up in there. Well, all we're going to be doing right now is just stripping it down. We won't be putting anything back on because I need to check all of these scrapers, make sure that they're all good and tight, make sure they're not worn out, and I got to replace them. Let me set a disc right there. We'll take it over here and measure it. All right, here we got our old disc opener and new disc opener side by side. And I mean, these disc openers are absolutely critical on replacing them when they're wore out to make sure you get a proper C-trench formed. And plus, with all the cover crop that we're cutting through, you let them go too long, get too small diameter, this beveled edge, once it gets worn down, well then the blade's getting thicker and thicker and duller and harder to cut through stuff. So brand new blades should measure 15 inches diameter across. Right on the money. And disc openers should be replaced when they have a 1/2 inch of diameter wear. So that one's about 14 3/8 diameter. So this one's a little past time to need to be replaced, but definitely need to be replaced this year. We go another year with this one, we could potentially see some planting issues or some seed placement issues, and then not to mention a lot of bearings and stuff going out. I could probably save just a little bit of money by grinding all these rivets off and just replacing just the blade and then the bearing inside the housing, but you're talking about a whole lot of extra work to do all that grinding the rivets off and then installing new rivets. Plus what I found out in the past by doing that is you know, this housing, bearing housing, isn't the best right there, and you go to install a new bearing in there, sometimes you don't get a good tight fit because the housing is expanded just slightly, and you'll, even though the bearing will be good, you'll still have a disc opener kind of wobbling and stuff. So I've always found it's just much better just to go ahead and just buy a complete brand new disc opener, slap it on, and not gonna have any issues whatsoever. All right, Andy, all those disc openers here on the rear are definitely past the point of needing to be replaced, so we'll just go ahead and strip off all these back 12 rows, and then before we put the new stuff on, we'll inspect everything else, make sure there's nothing else that needs to be replaced while we got the disc openers off, and go from there. Immediately found a problem that I wasn't anticipating. You see right here, there's supposed to be a guard here, just like right here, and I'm guessing the bolts just maybe didn't get them quite tight enough. Anyway, they vibrated loose, and we've lost 6 out of the 12 guards across through there. All right, your plastic cap, dust caps that go on the disc openers, how many of those were missing or bad?
I'm pretty sure it's 4. There's this one, that one has a huge hole in it, and I'm missing 2 more, so 4 so far.
All right, get that one. I want to go ahead and pull off this front disc opener on the very front unit. I'm going to measure it, see what the tolerance is on it, and then go down through here and double check, count how many of those dust caps we need. And we'll have to run and get some more parts.
Make a parts list.
And then let's go through the front units and just pull the gauge wheel off. Check all the bearings on the gauge wheel before you pull off. Make sure none of them have slack. Then check all of the disc openers. Make sure that they don't have any slack. And then pull each of the gauge wheels off and check the scrapers. Make sure none of them need to be replaced, and make sure these inner scrapers are all in place. So we shouldn't have to pull the actual disc openers off of all of them. I'm just going to measure one, and I think they're going to be fine, but make sure all the other hardware is there in good condition.
This one right here, just to check real quick, because this one's wore, but it's not too terrible.
This fine. It's still way down below the bevel right there. I mean, in fact, I don't think other than the first one we pulled off, I don't think there's many of them.
Took that one off right here, off this side.
Yeah, now this one, I mean, it's still got quite a bit of wear, but we've got them. I'll go ahead and replace them. Yeah, I think most all the rest of these scrapers are going to be in pretty good shape. All right, how are we looking on the front units here?
So far, they're all pretty good. I haven't had any kind of problems.
All right, all the disc scrapers look about like what the rear did.
All pretty good. Still some brand new ones on here.
All right, I'm gonna measure this blade down here on the end, see what kind of tolerances we got on it. All right, here's one of our front blades right here. And we can get 1 more year out of that. That's a little over between 14 and 5/8 and 14 and 3/4. So we can get 1 more year running out of this set of blades, but we'll have to plan on next year needing to replace them. All right, a lot of these bearings in these V closing wheels on the front units, feeling quite a bit of, not a whole lot of slack. That one's a pretty good bit, but enough to cause me concern that they might go the year, but then again, they might not. And we don't want any downtime in the field. So I think we'll probably go ahead and just replace all the bearings in these V wheels, which pain in butt to replace because you got all these bolts around here. get the halves apart. But still better doing it here in the shop in February than out in the field in April and May. All right, so we're missing 4 inner scrapers and 2 dust caps. All right. All right, I think I got my list together, what I need initially while I'm going and getting parts. Show you what else you need to be doing while all this stuff is off. Here on the road cleaners, we'll pull this bolt out. Just do one side at a time so you don't have to drop the whole road cleaner because those suckers are heavy. But pull the bolt out, and then there's a bushing in there that we're going to replace, and then just get the nuts started back on there. And I'm gonna get some blue Loctite, and before we tighten up, we'll put blue Loctite on it, and then we'll also put on all these inner scrapers. Hopefully solve that problem of losing them.
All right, so you want both sides loosened though, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, no, not spread out, but I mean, just take one bolt off on the side, put the bushing in, put the bolt back in, and just barely get the nut started on there, or you can even just leave the nut off, and then we'll put some blue Loctite, and then we'll tighten them back up. All right, got back with more parts.
Another receipt paper.
That's a very, very expensive box right there. $650 worth of parts. These things right here, those inner scrapers, were $27.50 a piece. A salesman told me this time last year they was about $7 a piece. Thanks, Biden, for all the inflation. Anyway, I reckon I'll get started on all of those closing wheels, changing the bearings out. We got some Loctite here. All right, you got all the bushings in our road cleaner pivots here replaced. Now, there's what's left of some of them right there. Yeah, they definitely had a lot of wear.
They were hanging on.
Definitely had a lot of wear on them and finally cracked. Anyway, put you a healthy dose of this blue Loctite on the threads, tighten them up real good. And then we've also had some problems with these plates working loose, especially on the front. In fact, we're missing one on the other side. I got another one. This one right up here on top, you can tell by the nut, it's a lock nut. Not gonna be a problem with it working loose, but this other one's just a regular nut. So loosen it up. Let's put some blue thread locker on this, do it front and back. That, and got the new inner scrapers for the ones that's missing. I got some brake cleaner over there. We need to spray it in there, clean the hole out real good, then probably take the air wand and blow it out real good, and then put some thread locker on those bolts and
Put the new ones on.
tighten them up. And the ones that are still on, probably need to take those bolts out and put some thread locker on there. Otherwise, we're gonna be losing $27.50 worth of inner scraper. It didn't take long to get a mess down here. So, yeah, hopefully we just taken about just about all what we need to take apart, and now it's just a matter of replacing what needs to be replaced and putting the jigsaw puzzle back together. Got all 22 press wheels, bearings changed in them. Here's what I took out. They actually didn't feel that bad. They still feel nice and smooth, didn't feel any roughness, but I mean, you saw the slack whenever I was wiggling them, so better be safe than sorry. So shouldn't have to worry about those press wheels for quite a while longer. Had one gauge wheel bearing was going down in, got it changed. Andy's been working on those inner disc scrapers.
Slowly getting them all changed.
They're kind of a pain in the butt, but he ran into a problem. Most of them he's able to replace there, but like this one right here, bolts are broke off in there. And that's kind of what happens. They get loose and one bolt winds up working its way out, then all the pressure's on the other bolt and it just snaps it off. So Got it cleaned up good, spray down with penetrating oil. It's Friday afternoon late. We'll let that soak all weekend, and then hopefully Monday morning I'll be able to drill a hole in it, get an easy out, and be able to get the rest of that stud out without hopefully any more problems or boogering those holes and threads up. Anyway, we made pretty good progress today. We've taken everything apart that we need to, gotten quite a few bearings replaced and some of the minute stuff. So get back out here Monday morning. I believe we'll be able to start going back on with some disc openers and gauge wheels. We got all the road cleaners fixed. We get all the repetitive stuff out of the way, and then we'll have a pretty big project there in the tongue to do. So anyway, I'll tell y'all about that Monday. All right, Monday morning, yes, we are going to get back on the planter. But first, we got something else to do. We need to test the towing capacity of my new truck there. We've actually gone like a whole 4 days without rain, and we still got about 1,000 pounds of feed on our seed tender, cow feed. The yard's kind of gotten dry enough, so we're going to hook the seed tender up to that, haul it up to my mom's house, and offload it onto the trailer there while we got some dry ground. Then we'll get back down here on the planter. Ordered some new solid hitches for the truck, 15,000 pound towing capacity. Go ahead and get our ball rigged up on here. Big question is going to be if I measured right and got the right drop on here. I ordered a 4-inch drop, but even that looks like it still might be a tad high. I might should have gone with a 6-inch drop, but we'll find out here in a minute. Neat thing, I finally got a backup camera. That's sure gonna make it easier hooking things up. All right, let's test out the trailer brake controller. Oh yeah, I think I wired it all up right. So was that hitch about the right height?
Yeah, it's the perfect height. What size ball is
That's
goes
a
on that?
2 5/16. Man, look at that wheat. She done greened up a lot since we put that nitrogen on. Another few weeks, it's really gonna start growing vertically. All right, this is what we got left of the feed. Probably not gonna be quite enough in there to get us through to when we carry the steers off the slaughter, but like I said, we got about 1,000 pounds left there in the seed tenders, so no easy way to do it other than to dump it in buckets and then dump it here in the trailer. All right, my solenoid still broke here, so we're going to have to do this manually. That should be enough to get them through, I think, about the 3rd week of March. I think when we're carrying them off. I can see them congregating over there. Our fence work's holding up. No problems with them staying in. All right, where was we at on this on Friday when we stopped?
I think we got every bolt over there Loctited and taking everything off that needs to be come off, but now we got to go through and Loctite these blade cleaners and replace a couple blades, I think, and then put everything back together, I believe.
All right, I got all the bearings changing the press wheels. All right, while you're Loctiting these, scrapers, I've got a smart seat firmer on the back I need to replace. I think we can start going on with the new blades and repairing the bearing and these couple blades on the front that need to be replaced. All right, this seed firmer here is a smart firmer, measures different properties of the soil, organic matter, temperature, moisture content, whether you got any trash hair pinning in the furrow or not. And I got a total of 3 of them here on the planter. But these things, one of the issues I got with precision planting, these things just don't last great. Of course, I mean, they are running in soil the whole time, so really not surprising. But anyway, when it went out middle of planting last year, there was none to be had due to shortages and just about everything. But anyway, I got a replacement one now, and so we're gonna replace it, see if that solves the problem on this row.